Coming up on the road today. EU drugs regulator approves AstraZeneca vaccine amid continuing dispute over supply delays. New COVID-19 vaccine trials from Janssen and Novavax shows optimistic results. Plus, China warns Taiwan independence means war as US pledges support. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shuboale. The European Union's drugs regulator has approved the use of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine for people aged over 18. The move comes amid a continuing dispute over whether the drug company is breaking its vaccine delivery commitments to the bloc. Meanwhile, the EU has confirmed it is introducing export controls on coronavirus vaccines made in the bloc. Announcing the export controls, the EU Health Commissioner says the measures is being introduced to ensure that all EU citizens had access to vaccines and make sure all parties played by the rules. Earlier, the EU Commission had made public a disputed contract to bolster its argument that AstraZeneca has been failing to fulfill its promises. It came hours after Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen increased pressure on the company over its decision to reduce vaccine supplies to the EU.
We welcome the company's commitment towards more transparency and its participation to the rollout of the EU vaccine strategy. Transparency and accountability are important to help build trust of European citizens and to make sure they can rely on the effectiveness and safety of the vaccines purchased at EU level. We also hope to be able to publish all contracts under the Advanced Purchase Agreement in the near future.
Meanwhile, a single-dose COVID-19 vaccine developed by Janssen is said to be 66% effective, but nobody needed hospital treatment or died from coronavirus after the vaccine took effect in the international trial. Crucially, the trial looked at giving just one dose of the vaccine, which makes it significantly easier to roll out than those requiring two. Here's more on this and other developments on our COVID-19 Global Update.
The UK has pre-ordered 30 million doses from Janssen's vaccine, which is set to prevent 66% of COVID cases after a single dose. But the jab is awaiting approval from the UK regulator if approved. Health Secretary Matt Hancock says the single-dose vaccine will significantly bolster the UK's vaccine program. A separate new coronavirus vaccine named Novavax has been shown to be 89.3% effective in large-scale UK trials. The Novavax jab is said to be the first to show in trials it is effective against a new virus variant found in the UK. But the head of the South African government's COVID-19 advisory panel has expressed concern at the vaccine's reduced efficacy against the new South African strain. Sri Lanka kicked off coronavirus inoculations for frontline health workers today, 24 hours after 500,000 doses of the vaccine were donated by neighboring India. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres received his first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine late on Thursday. He said he felt very grateful and urged everyone to get vaccinated as soon as they can.
I'm very grateful to the city of New York and to this wonderful staff here in Adlai Stevenson School in Bronx for the vaccine I just got. And to say how important it is for everybody everywhere to be vaccinated. And my appeal is for all to take profit of the opportunities that exist and be vaccinated as soon as they can. And I want to express my gratitude to the City of New York for having included the UN staff and UN diplomats in their vaccination program.
In other developments, Portugal has tightened its coronavirus lockdown, banning all non-essential travel abroad and hiring foreign medics as hospitals struggle and deaths reach record highs. The country's pandemic death rate is now the highest in the EU.
Our London correspondent Juliana Olayinka joins us now to discuss, some of those positive developments regarding COVID-19 vaccines. Juliana, encouraging news all around, but let's begin with the Janssen jab. We know that the UK has pre-ordered 30 million doses, but the jab is awaiting approval from the UK regulator. How soon can we expect this approval? What are you hearing?
I suspect we'll probably get approval by the FDA within a month or so, which is a little bit of time, but still, considering that we have 2 vaccines being rolled out at the moment, is positive enough here. We've currently vaccinated 7.8 million people. They've received the first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine, and 480,000 people have received the second dose. So we're well on our way. We're doing really well into this country. As you mentioned in the report, Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, is very excited about this new Johnson & Johnson jab. And Prime Minister Boris Johnson also mentioned earlier today that this is a very welcome development. As has been mentioned, it is a one-shot jab. It can be stored much easier than we're seeing with the AstraZeneca, and I believe the World Health Organization have been looking for a one vaccination dose, because that's believed to be the best way to fight a global pandemic such as COVID-19.
Yeah, it's coming at a good time. The Janssen vaccine is said to be significantly easier to roll out, like you mentioned, because it is a one-dose vaccine. But there are also signs it is less effective against the new variant that is spreading in South Africa. Are officials worried about this, bearing in mind that the huge issue now are these new faster spreading variants?
Yeah, I think an immunology expert is probably best placed to answer the details of that question. But, if you think about it, this time last year is when COVID-19 was just starting to spread across the world. Within that time, we already have at least 4 globally, clinically proven vaccines being inoculated across the world. We've got at least another 6 or 7 that are in late stage development. So I think we have to give it some time. I believe AstraZeneca, the pharmaceutical giant, did release a statement, I believe earlier this morning, confirming that in the blood tests that have been taken in South Africa, the vaccine is still got good efficacy there. I do believe Moderna have also released a similar statement. So I believe time will tell, but there are other vaccines in late stage trials. And as we know, COVID-19 has mutated in various times. It's not just the South Africa variant and the Kent variant and the Brazilian variant. There are so many others. So we'll just have to wait and see what the medical experts say on that.
All right then, Juliana, and just before I let you go, the EU confirmed not long ago that it is introducing export controls on coronavirus vaccines made in the bloc. Is this likely to affect the UK in any way?
Well, yes and no. This is a major row that's brewing between the EU and AstraZeneca, and of course this is because AstraZeneca last week said that they won't be able to keep up with the delivery of at least 60% of vaccines. This has caused a huge storm on the continent, particularly in Germany. I believe Germany have been writing in their private, in their media, that this is kind of a wave to the Brexiteers. For those who were kind of saying they wanted to cut ties from Brexit, this has given that division a solution. salute, because Britain were able to bypass a lot of the EU regulation and do an emergency regulation, which is why they were able to get some of these doses much more quicker than the EU have. I believe we have managed to give the jab to 11% of adults. In the EU, it's just 2%. So now they are putting in these curves. There are going to be export requirements. And yes, this could affect the UK. The Pfizer-BioNTech jab, which is produced in Belgium, I believe we have about 40 million a delivery supposed to be coming. Will this not come? Who knows? This is a very developing story. We are expecting an update later today, but vaccine wars continue.
All right, then we'll have to keep our eyes on that, Juliana. Thank you so much for your reporting. In the Middle East, the United Arab Emirates has introduced tighter restrictions to fight the spread of new coronavirus variant as the country continues to record their highest daily cases. The new measures include tighter restrictions on entertainment venues, more testing for incoming travelers, and further limits on gatherings. Our correspondent, Maiwa Adigoke, has more.
Businesses across Dubai, UAE's leading tourist hub, are feeling varied impact of tightened COVID-19 rules following record-hitting daily infections in the wake of the festive Christmas and New Year holidays. Over 18,000 new infections have been recorded in the past week alone. In the new guidelines, restaurants are now to space tables 3 meters apart and reduce persons per table from 10 to 7.
The restaurants for the medium class, like ours, it was deeply affected, and the result of the opening had no major effect, maybe 10%. This was the effect, even though our food, as Lebanese food, is very well known in Dubai, and people, when they want to eat barbecue Lebanese food, they come to us. However, it has gone down. The psychological effect on the people now, when they hear from the government, and this is right because they're taking care now in order to try to bring down this. When they hear that you're not supposed to sit anymore 2 meters, you're supposed to sit 3 meters. When they hear that you're not supposed to have 10 people on a table, you can maximum have 7 people. This automatically scares the people who want to go out to say. Since the government has started to go back to some rules and regulations that were in the past, this means things are getting bad. So it's a wake-up call to the people who wanted to go out, but now they prefer to stay at home.
Candlelight's dining restaurant on the popular Sheikh Zayed Road is barely surviving, but the business next door shares a different story.
On the whole, and this is, I would take a positive take on this. On the whole, we've seen an increase in sales because we've always been a delivery-centric brand. It's extremely different for the, if you see the restaurant industry on the whole, of course the impact of COVID has been quite severe.
Before the announcement last week, up to 200 people were allowed at social gatherings such as weddings. That number has now been cut down to 10, while hotels and restaurants have been ordered to cancel all entertainment.
It doesn't actually apply, from our understanding, to other events that are happening, whether that be community events or cultural events. However, many clients and many people we're working with don't actually understand what the rules are applicable for. So I think there's been a lot of blanket panic over the last week in particular, and we've seen many things cancel because people are just unsure about the rules. So I do think there needs to be a bit of clarification in terms of what this rule is applicable for and why. And then at least people can make a judgment and can start planning or can start even producing and delivering events where this rule is not applicable.
Some business owners are disgruntled as they believe they are now paying the price for the city opening up to tourists.
That was good for businesses. Did that lead to an escalation of cases? Of course it did. It's part of the process, right? We've all got to accept the reality. We are in the pandemic and this would happen. But is the government taking the right measures to curtail the rates, have enough vaccination out there for everyone, do enough testing for everybody? Yes, by all means. And I think that's the positive sign.
In a social media publication, The federal authority explains its pandemic strategy as a balance between maintaining the safety of the community, restoring normalcy, resuming economic activities, and accelerating producing on various vital sectors. Part of that strategy is its free vaccination program. Government plans to have half its population vaccinated by first quarter 2021. From Dubai in the UAE, Mayowa Adigoke for Channels Television News.
Still to come on the program. Kashmir Hotel lures tourists with Igloo Cafe. More details in a moment. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us on the program. China has warned that attempts by Taiwan to seek independence means war. The warning comes days after China stepped up its military activities and flew warplanes near the island. China sees democratic Taiwan as a breakaway province, but Taiwan sees itself as a sovereign state. In the meantime, the U.S. has reaffirmed its long-standing support to Taiwan's self-defense, saying there is no reason that tensions between China and Taiwan need to lead to anything like confrontation.
The department sees no reason why tensions over Taiwan need to lead to anything like confrontation. And so we find that comment unfortunate and certainly not commensurate with our intentions to meet our obligations under the Taiwan Relations Act and to continue to, as Secretary Blinken at the State Department said yesterday, look for ways where we can cooperate with China. But we have obligations that we intend to meet.
About 300,000 people are expected to leave Hong Kong for Britain using a new visa route which opens on Sunday. Hong Kong's British national passport holders and their immediate descendants will be able to apply for the visa using a smartphone app. But the Chinese Foreign Ministry said it will no longer recognize the BNO passport as a travel document. The visa was announced in July after China imposed a new security law in Hong Kong. And back to U.S.-China relations, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says he hopes there will be a reset in both countries' relationship, acknowledging that while the countries had different views on human rights, they should work together on climate action.
What for me is important is to say that I hope we will see a reset in the relations between the United States and China with different dimensions. It is clear that in human rights there are two completely different views, and it is clear that in human rights there is no scope for an agreement or a common vision. There is an area where I believe there is a growing convergence of interests, and my appeal is for that area to be pursued by the two sides together with the whole of the international community, and that area is climate action. I think there are reasons to hope that the two countries will be strongly involved in the preparation of the COP26 and in moving to carbon neutrality in the quickest possible way, and in having forms of mobilization of capacities and resources that will lead to a positive outcome. And then there is an area in which we might have competition or cooperation, which is more complex. It's trade and technology. And my appeal is for a serious negotiation on trade and technology in order to make sure that it is possible to preserve one global economy, one global internet, cybersecurity, and at the same time to have all that in support of the values that are our common values of justice, of equality, of international cooperation, and also of the respect of human rights.
Iran says it will not accept U.S. demands that it reverse an acceleration of its nuclear program before Washington lifts sanctions. Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif says the demand is not practical. The nuclear deal, formerly called the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, was struck by Iran and 6 major powers and committed Iran to restricting its nuclear program in return for sanctions relief from the United States and others. Israel and Gulf Arab states strongly oppose the deal as not being stringent enough on Tehran. Former U.S. President Donald Trump abandoned the deal in 2018 and reimposed U.S. sanctions, leading Iran to begin violating its terms. Now, after 13 years of legal battle, a Dutch appeals court has ordered energy giant Shell's Nigerian subsidiary to compensate 2 farmers for the damage to their land caused by leaks in 2004 and 2005. 2 other farmers have died since the case was first filed in 2008. Royal Dutch Shell had argued that saboteurs were responsible for leaks in underground oil pipes that have polluted the delta, but the appeals court ruled that while sabotage was most likely scenario in 2 of the villages, it could not be established beyond reasonable law, meaning the Nigerian subsidiary was liable. In 2013, the Hague District Court ordered Shell Nigeria to compensate one of the 4 farmers involved in the case for making it too easy for saboteurs to open a wellhead that leaked onto his land. However, the court cleared Shell of blame in pollution of the other 3 farmers' land and ruled that Shell's Dutch parent company could not be held liable. Meanwhile, action group Friends of the Earth has held the Dutch court verdict that Royal Dutch Shell's Nigerian subsidiary is responsible for oil spills in the Niger Delta, saying that it exceeds all expectations. Friends of the Earth filed the case together with 4 Nigerian farmers in 2008.
This is fantastic news for the people, the farmers in Nigeria, their families and their communities. Up until an hour ago, people in developing countries were without any rights when confronted by multinationals such as Shell, and from today on they know they can get their rights in the Netherlands when confronted by the destruction of their livelihoods by a Dutch multinational, in this case Shell.
And on a lighter note, tourists in Kashmir's Gulmarg ski resort have a new place to chill out, an igloo cafe that serves hot food and drink on tables made of ice and snow. The hotel, located on the Indian-administered side of the region, took inspiration from the Arctic shelters and added a few local touches, an arched door and patterns on the curved walls. The long-running conflict in the Himalayan region has hit Kashmir's once booming leisure industry, but crowds still come to its snowbound slopes every winter. The igloo holds 4 tables with enough rooms for 16 guests.
Last night we discovered this beautiful cafe which is not found in India. It is a very rare sight, and just before we could head on to Srinagar and start our daily city lives, we made a stop here and we are not disappointed. This is a beautiful and the most coldest place. We've been at -12.
It's a house, like it's a house built by all the snow. It's really amazing. The tables, everything here, it's snow. These people, they are really smart, and they will make you really enjoy, and you will see something you never saw in your life.
And on that chilly note, that's where we end the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shubowale. Have a lovely weekend.